No, that's a problem. No problem. We'll get it to you.
Ralph.
Rachel, did you send out the Zoom information?
I did.
Can you send it to Kurt again?
Oops, I muted myself. Yeah, I can.
Thank you. So Joe, that was Kurt. He just called and was going to get connected as soon as he gets the information.
Okay, I sent it.
Okay, we'll give him just a minute to log in then.
Okay. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. At 5088 cam bytes, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to rename him Cambite.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
He's on here twice.
Well, he's so tall. You probably have to have him twice to get him all in.
Yeah, it takes 2 screens to get me.
That's what I figured.
Actually, I apologize. I'm using my my desktop, and it does not have a camera. So
I think the previous chief was too cheap to buy one.
He's busy buying land and stuff for a comm center.
yeah, it was all part of his evil plan the whole time.
I wish I was that clever. Call Kurt real quick to make sure he got what he needs.
Boy, we had more fireworks around my place, this neighborhood, this year than ever before.
Did you get the information? Should have come from Rachel. Yeah, I'm looking for it. I just don't know.
Did it work? I can try to send it from my Gmail. I don't know. Chet couldn't get it either when I was sending it from my work email. So something may be wrong with my work email right now.
Let's see.
Kurt.Valhalla.
Send it to you again, Kurt. From me. And so phone number is probably the Tacoma one is 253-215-8782. Yeah. Well, that's just going to give you well, the meeting ID is 896 0936 0236, and the password is 012 098. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, Kurt should be here. Kurt, can you hear us now?
Yes, I hear you. Thank you.
Okay, now you can control your own mute.
All righty.
Okay, now Kurt's joined us. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 10:06. And up first, making sure everybody's had a chance to review the agenda. And I guess I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda, unless anybody has any changes.
I'd move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, is there any opposed? The agenda is approved. Item 3, we're looking for the approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting, June 24th.
I'd move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the meeting minutes from June 24th. Any discussion on those minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Up next, opportunity for public comment. Do we have anybody on the line or phone or internet, public-wise, who wishes to comment? Okay, I am not hearing any. So with that being the case, we'll move on to the payables, item 5.
There is nothing super noteworthy in the payables. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look through it, but feel free to ask any questions.
I make a motion that we approve the payables.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the payables. Is there any discussion on the payables? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Payables are approved. Item 6 this morning is financial report.
Okay. So everything looks good for us. Our revenues are coming in as expected. So we would expect to be at about 50%. Anything that's below 50 is just because we haven't done transfers yet. And those just happen when we do our major purchases, or they will happen more towards the end of the year once we see exactly where our finances are. Then we'll make the appropriate transfers then. And then for our expenditures, everything is looking pretty good. We would expect to be at about 50%. So anything over 50% in the remaining is looking good for us. We will need to do a budget amendment possibly later in the year because I had to add a couple different things, like the Washington State Auditor was not budgeted, but we have to pay them because we're doing the audit. So that will be an added line. So I don't know, Kurt might have a better idea on whether or not we'll need to do a budget amendment for something like that. It's not a huge amount, but it is a change. And then other than that, at the very bottom, you can see our revenues, expenditures, cash, investments, information, and that's accurate up to June 30th.
So the audit only cost us $3,700?
So far. That was for their work that they did, I believe, I want to say only what they touched in May or early June. So they're still finishing up. So that's like maybe a week or two worth of work, and they've done 4 more since then.
Okay.
So we'll see how expensive it is, because everything's been done via conversations over the phone and emails being sent back and forth. They didn't actually have to come here, so we don't have to pay for like their housing and stuff. So it may end up being much cheaper than a typical audit.
On the, Rachel, on the technology and software maintenance, we're at, I think if I see the right line, we're at 90%. Are we not expecting any much more of that work to be happening through the second half of the year? Is this taking care of all of that work, given we're at 90%?
The technology and software includes like our Intergraph, which is a huge chunk. It's budgeted in here for $232,000, and we haven't paid that yet. That usually comes around September. So that's why that seems so high, that we have so much left.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay. Any other questions for Rachel on the financial report? Okay, not hearing any. Does that complete everything, Rachel, you had for financial?
Yes. The sales tax update, Phil, did you want to cover that, or did you want me to cover that?
I can I can just show it, but we can, this is the projections that we put in for this year once COVID hit. And these are actuals through June. And again, we're 2 months behind. So in March, we saw an 8% decrease in revenues based on our projections, or based on our collected last year. And for the month of April, we are 11% more than what we collected last year. So it's a nice surprise for us, and kind of hopeful that we'll continue on with a similar business as usual, I think, for the sales tax. But everybody's crystal ball is a little bit murky. This was a huge surprise to us. So we're still continuing to plan with decreases going throughout the year, but we'll see.
So we're erring conservatively as we continue forward. It looks like the projections are still going to show 30% decrease.
Well, that's what we did in
Yeah.
April and May when we were developing this, with a planned and an expected decrease. And at some point, the stimulus money that people were getting, I think, will probably will no longer be accounted for. I don't know how much people put in the bank and how much people were spending. Real estate continues to be a pretty strong market in Cowlitz County, and it's what they've said, kind of a unique little bubble for us, for Cowlitz County, that we're not impacted as much as some other communities are. So I think it's going against everybody's I think it's going against everything that's typical, what we've typically seen. Kurt, you want to weigh in on that a little bit? Andy?
No, I'd agree with you on that. So, I was pleasantly surprised as you were in seeing those sales tax revenues come in for the month of April, knowing that, we were pretty much shut down for the month. So I'm encouraged by that. I certainly will continue, and I know you will too, keep an eye on what comes in now in July to see if that trend continues. And if so, I think perhaps we can at least put some of the concerns that we had with regard to the fiscal impacts of COVID-19 maybe behind us for a while. We'll see, at least in terms of where we thought we would be.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else on the sales tax, Phil?
No, other than that's that's where we're at, or this is what we're still continuing to plan on. If we continue on this same track, we're still at $1.9 million. We budgeted $1.7 million for the year, so that would put us to, $200,000 ahead of where we were last year. So that'll be good.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I'm sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Chet.
Well, it was just a thought for Cowlitz County. We still have the mills going and that stuff. So I think we're fortunate as a community that we did have payrolls still working.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, and I know we already talked about budget amendment, but was there anything else on that? We're looking at an amendment in September or October.
Yeah, that's when we would look to do one if necessary.
Okay. All right, there's nothing else on financial report. Do we have anything under resolutions or ordinances?
We have nothing.
Okay, then moving on, item 8, authorization the director to agree to the engagement letter from D.A. Davidson.
Yeah, so we had sent out an RFP for underwriting services for the bonds, and we interviewed 3 firms. And of the 3 firms, D.A. Davidson ended up having the most favorable rates. They were also, out of the interviews, one of the top 2 of being most favorable as far as from the interviews go. So we decided to work with D.A. Davidson on this and negotiated an agreement, and this is this engagement letter. Again, this is not an agreement. This is the engagement letter for them to continue to do the work. We will have another contract that we will need to sign with them once we sell the bonds. But right now, the cost per 1,000, depending on which way we end up going, is $3.69 per 1,000 or $3.84 per 1,000. So at $14 million worth of bond sales, that would cost us about $53,760 for the underwriting fee, which is very favorable. The other rates that we had were just a little bit over $4 and $4.50 or something for the other firm. So they've really worked hard to get this number down to what seemed to be a lot different than the other firms. Any questions on that? So on the panel, we had Norm Crable, Kurt Zaha, myself, and Ryan Neumeister and Scott Bauer from our financial advisors. Questions? So I'd be looking for direction from the board that they're in agreement that to enter into this engagement letter. And if the board so approves, then I will move forward with that.
There's no questions. I'd entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and it's seconded to authorize the executive director to agree to the engagement letter from D.A. Davidson. Is there any discussion on that? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Moving on, item 9 is a formal 60-day notice regarding the change of the funding formula.
So we talked about the change in the funding formula at our last meeting. We talked about the $1.60 or a 1.6% increase that was taking an average over a number of years and planning it out that way. And so the service level agreement, we're required by our bylaws to give a 60-day notice to do that. This also would give individuals to take this agreement back to their agencies and to present it to their boards for approval as well, or as much information. Item or letter H covers that, is that it's a 1.6% increase based on the previous year. And then AMR credits come in after that.
Okay, and I don't know if any of folks had already had a chance to discuss this with their agencies or not, but I guess if anybody had anything to add or questions, please let us know.
If we end up with all of these agreements back by, I'm going to say September, but if we had them all back in hand by October, we would be in really good shape to be able to continue on with our budgeting process as it is.
Bill, is H the only change that was made to the document?
I'd have to go back and look at my change document, but I believe so, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
Are you looking for a motion on this then, Phil, or are you just waiting to get the agreements back?
This is just our formal notice from us to the agencies that there will be a 1.6% increase.
Okay.
And in the bylaws, it said that we were going to establish a flat rate number for 5 years, and that would expire at the end of 2020. If in fact there was no amendment or change to it, we would continue on with that same practice year to year. And if there's any changes in that, requires a 60-day notice to the agencies. And so this is a 60-day notice to the agencies that there will be this 1.6% increase, and the funding formula then in fact changes from what it's been in the past of having a number of those factors incorporated into that process using assessed valuation and population and other factors to determine the fee and call volume for law enforcement. And on the fire department side, it is assessed valuation and calls for service. And then in those formulas, it was broken out 75%, 25%. But since we've been 5 years into this program of keeping it flat, as kind of trying to flattening the curve so that's not a increase, decrease year to year for agencies, it seems to have worked, stabilized funding really well, and hasn't made a huge changes for the agencies to adjust every year. You know, in some cases, when I was at City of Longview, we were changing up to about 10 or 20% per year, sometimes depending on how that factoring came out. The end result still was the same to the 911 center as far as the dollars collected, but it just changed from agency to agency how much that was.
Right.
Jim, the other changes in the document that I can pull right off the top, on page 2, letter F changed. And then on page 3, H1 changed. I'm sorry, H changed, the duration changed. And then we added on number 3, the 2 additional 3-year extension language.
Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So yeah, don't need a motion for it or anything unless you feel like there would be a need to accept this as formal notification, or if the minutes can just show that formal notification was made to the agencies of this change. So those agencies that are not a participant on the board, we will mail notices to all the agencies.
Okay, so that mailing will go out following this meeting.
And we'll take draft off of it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Phil on the notice? All right. Hearing none. Guess we can move on to item 10, Director's Report.
I can't find it. There it is. Hopefully nobody's getting dizzy. So staffing, our staffing remains the same. We have 18 fully released dispatchers working. We have another one that's nearing completion, probably about another 30 days or so, where she'll be completed with her training. We also have 2 others that are in their beginning stages of training at the end of July. It is my plan to move them to other trainers that would be put them on day shift and give them a busier workload once they get some of these fundamentals dialed in on night shift. And everybody seems to be doing really well at this point and progressing just fine. We're also, for the time being, for the summer months, we are not engaging in active recruitment. We will begin active recruitment again in September for the purposes of filling those other positions. The facility, any questions on the staffing update? Last meeting, I gave a little bit of a heads up that there may be a recruitment going out for an admin position. We are working on that. That's becoming more finalized. And I've been discussing a little bit with Joe, a little bit about process-wise. And we expect that we would try to fill this position by August 11th or so. So I have a little bit of overlap. And what we would do, this position is the HR generalist position. And we will plan on filling that around the August 11th, August 12th timeline. You give a couple, 3 days of overlap here, but retain the current HR generalist, Monique, on a remote remote working type of a platform, where she'll need to come back again in September for a couple of weeks to work more closely with her replacement to in that recruitment stage, and to get some of all those I's dotted, T's crossed on some of the activities that happen in those phases. And then she would be completely off of the payroll probably by the end of September. And that'd be my expectation. So we do have a little bit of overlap, but her family is moving across the country, and she would be able to come back for those couple of weeks in September. And if I needed then to continue to do some remote working through the end of September, that's what we had discussed, just for that transition to the new person.
So are we going to have to change anything on job description or anything, or is that all pretty up to date?
Yeah, it was new in 2018 or for the beginning of 2019, and at this point haven't found a reason to amend it.
Okay. Okay.
And so facility-wise, we're moving forward really well. We just got the final design development documents last night, and I've been reviewing them today. Our final design development meeting is on the 16th of August or 16th of July. And then following that meeting, they will be they'll begin working on the construction documents in earnest. We have a hearing before the Appeals Board of Adjustment in the City of Longview on July 14th at 4:30 to see if there's been any public comment on the SEPA requirements and on the special property use permit or application. So things are progressing pretty well right there. We are continuing to work closely with Lowe's on an easement there. There's going to have to be a bit of an adjustment. They've requested that some changes in that area, but they're continuing to work with us on developing access off of that Lowe's Road rather than having to access that off of Ocean Beach Highway. And the city of Longview is also, through their planning, has come up with a couple of different ideas because we're required to have Ocean Beach frontage. And so during the lease time where the fire station isn't there, there'll be a property boundary line adjustment made to access Ocean Beach Highway, or would have that identified piece of land attached to Ocean Beach Highway between two homes. And then when the final construction of the fire station happens, then that boundary line would be adjusted again to access along the west side of the property. So all of those things are taking place going forward. We're not seeing any real major roadblocks. There's certainly work to be done, but it looks like things are progressing fairly well. Any questions on that? Okay. But in culture, we're still continuing to plug
Phil,
away.
I'm sorry. Oh,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was trying to get in there. Do we have a commitment from the emergency services to go into that building? Like, I don't recall that, but do we have that kind of a commitment?
Yeah, there's no commitment from Department of Emergency Management to go into that building.
There's none?
None, no.
Then
So-
why, I guess the other question would be is, why are we building it so big then?
As far as an EOC goes.
Yeah.
So that continues to be a question about long-term planning, and it still would be an available place. It's
Okay.
training. That would be a training. It would be a shared space. So it would be for training, which we currently don't really have, or we use the EOC as we currently have it adjacent to us for training. And then it could also double as an EOC. But that's a good question. We're planning, for growth for the next 70 years.
Uh-huh.
And so some of that is a little bit of a shot in the dark about how is that space, are we going to be fully utilizing that space over the next 70 years or not? And should it be this big? But that's kind of the plan that we've kind of been working towards about getting in that direction. It's a little bit of a crystal
thanks.
ball. It's a crystal ball, Chet.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, do you do it now or do you do it later type of thing? But yeah, it's a good question.
Well, thank you, Phil. And the reason I ask is that article in the paper, which I shouldn't take. I don't have a parrot anymore. But anyway, it made it sound like they were already in. We already had a deal going. And I just wanted to check because I didn't recall anything. So
Yeah,
thank you.
In that interview, I should have probably done a better job of clarifying that with the reporter, that it's a shared space. I did say a number of times to the reporter that this was a backup EOC for now, that emergency management was not going over with us, and that it would be a backup, or if it was identified as a useful place, for example, under the current system that we have as far as the incident management team, would that be a good location for them to work out of as well, during an incident like this? And over the past 10 or 15 years, we've had a number of incident management team activations in the county where this could also act as a place that they could meet as well to set up the command post.
Great, thank you.
I think it's a great question, Chet. We've struggled with that. We've had a lot of internal discussions about that. We discussed it with the architects that, what size is the best size, and trying to get to a point that would be reasonable and practical at the same time. And it is the crystal ball is a bit murky.
I understand. Thank you again.
Having a nice sized meeting room like that, though, is going to be an asset, I think, in the long run, whether it's for, like you said, training, our board meetings, any other kinds of meetings or times we just need to get together. Those kinds of rooms are really pretty valuable.
Okay, any other questions for Phil on the facility update? Okay. Climate and culture?
Yeah, I think, and talk a little bit about climate and culture. It's one of those things that's kind of nebulous, that how is it that you can put your finger on when you've gotten there, or when are you going in the right direction, and when is there positivity in the organization, and when is there a good working relationship between all the folks. But really, in essence, this is a continuing work in progress that we're continuing to work in that direction, work directly with the Guild on a number of initiatives to try to address those things. Lots of people have been interested in being involved in different projects. As for example, now when we've had this facility project, there's 6 people that are participating in that, and there's probably more that want to be. At some point, it's just so hard to plan a meeting if you have so many people, and just have that type of level involvement or request to be involved is pretty heartwarming, and it's pretty exciting to be part of that. The other piece of that is that there's, knowing that we're going to a new CAD system, there are a number of people that have expressed an interest in wanting to participate in developing that program, and to making sure that CAD is developed for the best utilization of all of the users and for the users here at the Comm Center. So I kind of use that as a measuring stick as far as how is it that people are feeling. Is there people currently looking for work elsewhere? Other people, how is our recruitment going? Are we able to attract people to look at Cowlitz 911 as a place to work? But it'll be an ongoing work as we continue on this path for the extent of time that we're here, I think, and continuing to focus on the good work that our people are doing, and try to continue to invest in and listen and take their investment of time and use it wisely as well. So it's really nebulous. It's really hard. It's usually probably somebody else is going to be able to tell you what that climate and culture is better than I am going to be able. I kind of have a feeling, but doing a poll of our people would probably help with that. It says that, how are things going? Are they going better? Is there something that you need? There are questions that I often ask, but it is also you guys get to assess that, and the board gets to assess that based on what they hear in the community, based on what they hear from employees. Others get to hear it from everybody's opinion, on how that's going. So it seems to be going pretty well. And then on radio infrastructure, we are nearing the last week or two of time needing to be worked on the installation of the radio consoles. We've really slowed down based on COVID and how much workers could be in here, and what workers were willing to be able to work through. So anyway, we're very close to having the radio consoles completed. And then the planning work is being wrapped up for Deer Island and Castle Rock, West Longview, and Woodland for those improved radio sites, and that's what we're going to be working on through the balance of the summer.
Okay, any questions for Phil on his report? Okay, hearing none. Do we have anything under old business?
I would only say on tomorrow on the 9th for old business is that we have a, I'm just double checking my calendar. We have issued an RFP or RFQ, I should say, a request for qualifications for IT consultant, as we discussed at a previous meeting. And there's a site visit tomorrow that's voluntary, and if people are interested in attending that, that is tomorrow at 2:00. And then we have an exit interview. Rachel, help me. What day is our exit interview? Oh, it's on July 15th at 10 a.m. We have the exit interview with the auditor. And so far we've had a board member that's indicated an interest in being able to attend, and a couple others that said that they could probably attend via Skype or remotely.
Mhm.
So we can have up to 4 board members there without planning a special meeting.
Phil, I was going to ask regarding the RFQ, what sort of time frame, when would we have to, I guess, make some sort of final decision on which way to go on that IT portion of it regarding, I know breaking ground is in December. I mean, right now is the plan, but I'm just curious for a time frame for decision making on that RFQ information.
I would expect that you would have a presentation from us in September at our September board meeting, our first one, for a possible contract with a consultant.
Okay, so I'm just making sure. I know there might be questions on exactly what that looks like, and just trying to make sure people know they have the opportunity and the time to maybe seek some further input or information on what all is entailed in that in the long run. So it sounds like.
Are you talking about vendors, Joe?
What's that?
Were you talking about vendors?
Well, just I guess the overall what folks' expectations are for whether that's how much is included in that work that we are expecting to have done by a vendor or a contractor.
Yeah, it would be a substantial amount of work, and we'd expect that there would be planning to go ahead and identify where what our gaps are as far as what we currently have to what we need to have out there. I would expect that the county would be one of our potential vendors with that, and exactly how it's all going to look and how it would all play out. But so I'm thinking that if we have somebody on board in mid-September, early October, that they would be able to help make sure that we get all our I's dotted, T's crossed through the transition. And then there would be a potential of a continuing effort of maintenance for these things going forward beyond not only maintenance, but continued support beyond the life of that RFQ that would be to provide some of those services that we will no longer have when we're a standalone entity. And that RFQ is on our website if anybody's interested in taking a look at it from the board. We've sought out 4 vendors that have indicated an interest or some interest in it prior to that, and then it's also been issued out to the newspapers and the other publications where IT consultants would likely be found.
Okay, any other questions for Phil under the old business items? Okay, not hearing anything. So item 12, any board comments or board committee reports? Okay, not hearing anything there. Do we have any need for executive session today?
None.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
Phil, we will be canceling the next meeting, correct? You won't be here.
It won't be it would be our intent to cancel the 22nd meeting unless there's something pressing that you all would like to have. I can remote in for the 22nd, but I'm planning on being on vacation from the 17th to the 27th.
Okay, yeah,
Bill,
unless there's, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if there's still room for the exit conference on the 15th, if there's availability, I'd like to attend.
Okay, Rachel will get you the information, Kurt.
Thank you.
Has anybody else reached out to you, Phil, about that? Because we have 3 so far.
Nobody else has reached out to me. I talked to Alan and Joe both, and then we got a response from Bill Lamons. And Alan and Joe were both out of the area and or maybe able to Skype. But if they are able to and Kurt and Bill attend, then we're good. I mean, that would be the 4.
Okay.
We can also issue a special meeting notice as long as we make that notice ahead of time if more people wanted to attend. Again,
Well, and if you have more than enough, I mean, I don't need to attend, Phil. I'd be willing to give my seat up if you have extra or others wish to.
Well, my availability is fairly tentative. I'm out of the state and I don't know. I was kind of trying to guess on my, I guess, technology ability reception of where I'll be. So, yeah, Kurt, don't worry about it. It's probably good you attend for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else before we adjourn for the good of the order? Sounds like we'll cancel the next meeting on the 22nd unless there's somebody has an issue with that or has a need to meet on the 22nd, but I didn't hear any, so I think we're good to cancel that. All right. Thank you, everybody. With that, we will go ahead and adjourn. Have a good day.
Goodbye. Stay safe.
See you guys later.
Thank you.